So we're going to talk about the new moon, and I took time because I wanted to look some stuff up with it. So the new moon, this is the big thing. We have, usually a lot of people go with either the dark moon, that's the moon you can't see, with the, I would say with the eyes, human eyes. We have the slither, which is, a little portion of light, and we have the full moon. Okay. So these are the three things that goes into this new moon, and we're gonna break it down. We ain't going too far, but I just want y'all to see it. Okay. So the dark slither or full moon. All right, brother. We're gonna start off. Read Genesis 1 and verse 1. If y'all want to go to the Bible, you can. I'm gonna put all the scriptures on the screen as well. So whatever's easier for you.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
So in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. All right. So God did this. We have to go in the beginning to get this stuff. Read.
And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years."
So right off the bat, see what I got highlighted. And God said, let there be lights. I'm not even gonna go what the lights are. We probably know it, but let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide. What are you gonna do? Divide day and night, and let them, what's the them? The lights. Let the lights be for signs, seasons, days, years. Why are you making an emphasis on that, Mike? Because it says they are lights. So one of the things I take away from this is that it needs to be something, a light. So this is why I don't do dark, because it says the lights are going to be for a sign. I'm going to show you one sign, right? Stop sign. We all seen this, right? When you see the stop sign, you know to do what? It's a sign to tell you to stop. If you don't see the stop sign, you don't just stop in the middle of the road because you just stop. You have to see what? The sign. The sign tells you what to do. It said that the light was the sign. So where there's no light, what does that tell us? It's no sign. All right. So I just want y'all to realize this is why I take dark moon right out, because you need a light. The light is the sign. I'm going to show you another illustration. What is this? And some men got stuff right from the Bible. This is a light, and it's hung up, just like, the lights in heaven, hung up. And what you do, it got the red to tell you to stop, yellow, green. And depending on the light, it tells you what to do. Mm-hmm. Also, there's times where what? The light goes out and it don't have nothing. And you don't know what to do. Why? Because the light gives you the sign. Mm-hmm. Darkness don't give you the sign. The light gives you the sign. So without light, it don't tell us nothing. Just like traffic light. Without it, don't tell us nothing. Okay, we need the light. The light is the sign. That's the thing that's going to tell you what's what. All right. So this is emphasis on why the light is so important. Okay. For the next one.
And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so.
All right. So what's this part? Let them, we ain't gonna talk about them, the lights, let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven. So the lights are going to be in heaven. We're going to get to what they are. To give light upon the earth. So people saying, oh, it's light, it's always light. And it's saying to give light upon the earth, because what? We're on earth. We got to see the light on earth to know what to do. Because there's certain times, like even the sun, right? We know it's going to be done with the sun and the moon. The sun don't just go out, right? Hopefully, we don't go out. But it's just what? It goes out to us because we don't see it anymore. It's not a sign for us, right? It's only a sign when we see it. Then we're like, okay, it's the day. It's the daylight, right? It's the light of the day. We see it. That's when we know. But when we don't see it, it's not a sign of nothing. The same thing you're going to see when it comes to the moon. All right? Read verse 16.
And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
So now God's saying, he said, I made two great lights. All right. God made two great lights. Greater light to rule the day. I'm just going to give you the spoiler. That's the sun. And then a lesser light to rule the night. What's the lesser light? The moon. He made the stars also. They're the other lights that's in the firmament. Okay. So he's talking about heaven. I want you to realize it, because some people will say, there's times, I don't know if you know, during the day, you'll see the sun and you'll see the moon. I don't know if y'all ever seen that. Right. And you're like, well, Mike, see that there's something wrong. What'd he say? The greater light to rule the day. If you see both of them, if you see that greater light, that's the one that's ruling. That's when you know what it is, right? So the greater light rules the day. That's why the sun is referred to as, you see that daylight, the light of the day. That's the sun. And the lesser light to rule the night. So when you see the greater light, it's in rule. That's ruling it. When the moon comes up, that's the lesser light. It's not as bright as the sun. That's the one that rules the night. Okay. And I'm taking it slow, for a reason, so everybody get it. All right. Verse 17, brother.
And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth.
And they're saying it again. He set them in the firmament of heaven to give what? Light
on the earth.
Upon what? The earth. Why? Because the people he's given this light to be assigned to is where at? On the earth. He's telling you the whole reason I'm making these things. These are assigned for you. I have to let the light be shined on the earth because it's for you. It's a sign for you. All right. So he's letting you know right in Genesis what he is doing. Verse 18.
And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good.
All right. So once again, the same thing, to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw it was good. Verse 19.
And the evening and the morning were the fourth day.
And I'm just throwing this out there because you're gonna have people saying, well, the moon, it was perfect the first day, and it was a full moon, the full moon or this or that. Listen, this didn't happen till what day? The fourth day. And we're going to see the new moon ain't even done on the fourth day, but he created this the fourth day. So you can't use the creation for how you're doing everything as well, dealing with the moon. All right. Because that was done the fourth day. Okay. Let's go to the next thing. Go to Jeremiah 31:35. The importance of the light. When we're dealing with the moon, you have to know the importance of the light. Jeremiah 31:35.
Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and the stars for a light by night, which divided the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name.
So thus saith the Lord God, which what? We read in the Genesis, give the sun for a what? A light by day. Didn't change. In the ordinance of the moon and of the stars. What's the ordinance? He gave order to it. He told him what to do. He says, sun, you're going to rule the day. Moon, you're going to rule the night. The same emphasis, okay? But it's a light. You see where it says a light by day, a light by night. All right? That next part. But let's keep going. Let me read this one.
If I beheld the sun, and when it shone, or the moon walking in the brightness.
So I'm just showing you the Bible has poetic stuff, So the sun, when it shines, of course, we see the sun shine. And then the moon walking in what? Brightness. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to give a little emphasis on that later on. But remember, the moon walking in brightness. Okay? Y'all remember that. All right. Let's get to Psalm 8:3.
When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, which thou hast ordained.
And what are you ordaining to do? To give light unto us. And I want to keep on bringing that point because the light is what does it. He ordained it to give light to us because the light is a sign. All right. All right. We're getting off of that. So what day is the new moon? That's the next thing we need to know, right? What day is it? We go to 1 Samuel 20 and verse 24. Brother, you can read this.
So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat.
All right, so David's in the field. He said, when the new moon. So when is the new moon? Let's keep reading.
And the king sat upon his seat, as at other times, even upon his seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought something had befallen him. He is not clean. Surely he is not clean.
The new moons you will come together. It was customary to come together. But if you were unclean, sometimes you wouldn't show up to it. Right. So this is what King Saul's thinking why David didn't show up for the new moon, because he's like, maybe he's unclean. Maybe that's why he didn't show up. Hold on to this part.
And it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today?
It says it came to pass on the morrow, right? So it means after the new moon, which was the what? Second day of the month. So we know that tomorrow was the second day of the month. You just go back one day, and what that tells you, that was the first day of the month. So new moon is the first day of the month. All right. Everybody know that new moon is the first day of the month. Very important for the next part. All right. So this is the big old this is a big passage when it comes to it because it addresses new moon and a certain time. Okay. So everybody trying to figure out, when new moon is it, the slither, the dark, and all that. So this is the juggernaut of dealing with this, okay? And this is where we're going to spend a little time breaking this down, and this will kind of give us a picture, all right? Brother, you can read that?
Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day.
So, blow up the trumpet in the what? New moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day, okay? I'm going to show you where the discrepancy comes in, but I'm going to keep it, transparent. You go this day, time appointed. All right. When you go into depending what kind of app you have, you go to the Hebrew. That word, time appointed, is the Hebrew word. I'm going to probably say it wrong, but Kyee. That's how you spell it. All right. So this is the word for time appointed. We got to break it down like this. Okay. This word means what? Full moon. This is what makes everything, it changes things for people. Because now it's like how we read it. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the full moon, on our solemn feast day. That's how it reads it. You get it from there. I'm just switching what the word means in Hebrew. It's full moon. No argument there. But we have to keep going, all right? So we're going to continue to investigate this. So blow up the trumpet in the new moon and the time appointed, which is, we find out that's the full moon, the Hebrew word in there, on our solemn feast day. Solemn feast day. Let's look at the feast days, all right? So if you go Leviticus 23, you can see these days, okay? So when we look at this, now let's look at these. We said the new moon is on what day of the month? The first day, right? New moon's on the first day of the month, and the time appointed full moon on our solemn feast day. Now, what feast is on the first day of the month? It's not Passover. Passover's on what? The 14th day. Unleavened bread, 15th day. Pentecost is 50 days afterwards, so that can fluctuate. So that's not going to be it. Memorial of the blowing of the trumpets, first day of the 7th month. All right. Atonement, 10th day of the 7th month. Tabernacle, 15th day. So the only solemn feast day that can be on the new moon, which new moon mean, I'm going to just say new moon for now, is the first day of the month. It will only be able to apply to which feast? Blowing of the trumpets. That's the only feast that's on the first day consecutively. Right? And that's why I want to show you all of them so you can see it. So if you're going to grab this verse, you have to say, okay, this is dealing with the blowing of the trumpets. Let's see if that works. All right. All right. So it's the same verse again. And now we're going to keep reading. Like we said, we don't just grab one verse. We got to read to get the context of it. All right, brother. So read verse 3 and 4. Okay.
Blow the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. Mm-hmm. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of God of Jacob.
Okay.
This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, when I heard a language that I understood not.
Got something. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt. This is very important. Read the next verse as well.
I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands were delivered from the pots.
Oh, excuse me. So this he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt. So we got to figure out, when did he go out the land of Egypt? When I removed his shoulder from the burden, his hands were delivered from the pots. So it seemed like there's some bondage going on. All right. So we got to figure out which time did he leave out through the land of Egypt? Let's see what solemn feast day this will fall on, because it wasn't trumpets. All right. So here's the same verse again, time appointed on our solemn feast day. Okay.
Blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. Mm-hmm. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the God of Jacob. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
So we had to get, what time did this happen? When did he go out through the land of Egypt? On this solemn feast day, we went out through the land of Egypt. It was not on Passover, right? Because that's the 14th day. No, I'm sorry. He didn't go out there because they didn't go out through the land of Egypt on the 14th of the first month. All right. Unleavened bread, yes. Let's look at the other ones. So you see where I got no, because what? There was only one time, one feast that we went out through the land of Egypt. Hopefully y'all can see that. And I'm going to prove it here now. But this day that worked for it, that first day, trumpets, we did not go out through the land of Egypt. And if you got that, please show me, right? But that was not the day we went out through the land of Egypt. Let's prove it. Let's prove it, all right? So dealing with that, verse 5, through the land of Egypt. Numbers 33 and verse 1.
These are the journeys of the children of Israel, which went forth out of the land of Egypt, with their armies under the hand of Moses and Aaron.
See the same verbiage? Which went forth out of the land of Egypt. Psalms 81:5. When he went out through the land of Egypt, this is the event that they're talking about. Okay, read verse 3.
And they departed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. Y'all
see it? So he went out to the land of Egypt, and it says the morrow after Passover. Passover was the 14th, and this is what? The 15th. This is that solemn feast day. All right? It was dealing with unleavened bread. Now, this is going to bring some confusion, maybe to some people. All right? Read the first one, then, the first line, and then we read the second one with the things we put in there to give the understanding of it.
Come. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. Mm-hmm. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the full moon on our feast of unleavened bread.
All right. Because we see that this solemn feast day is dealing with the feast of unleavened bread, because that's the only one we went out through Egypt. Okay. So, and we know the time appointed. Hebrew, if you go into Hebrew, I don't go to Hebrew or anything, but this one, you looked on it, that word they use for this means full moon. So the full moon was what? On the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This is what this is dealing with. All right. And so the next question coming like, wait, it must be an error, because you just told me new moon was on the first day of the month, right? So it seemed like there's something wrong. This won't fit. And it won't fit if you look at it the way you're looking at it. So how does the new moon fit into this? How can we get this new moon to make sense? How can we get it to work? All right. So Psalms 81 verse 3, we've been reading that the whole time. Showing you how it looks here. So new moon. It's coming from the word Kadesh. All right. I'm probably saying it wrong. All right. So new moon, this verse is from the Hebrew word Kadesh. And this is the definition. You can look at it. I'll show y'all how you can look at some of the stuff. But this word Kadesh, where they put, which was right here in new moon, is either new moon, new month, or monthly. These are the definitions. And you'll see this with a couple of when you look at definitions of words, it sometimes will have multiple definitions, because depending where it is, it can be applied differently. All right. So you have to look at it. So we have to look at the whole context. So we got this word that they put in for here could mean new moon, month, or monthly. All right. Let's go to the next one.
This shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Where was this addressed at? Exodus 12:2, right? Right before what's happening? The unleavened bread and the Passover, right? For that solemn feast day. So this month shall be what to you? The beginning of the months. Absolutely. It is. The new moon is the beginning of the months. It's also the new month. Why? Because it's the first month of the year to you. So it is a new moon. It is a new month. Okay. So it still makes sense. It works. There's no contradiction in the Bible. So put it right in. Unleavened bread is what? The first month, 15th day. New moon, new month. All right. And it goes right back with the whole context of everything we have. All right. So look at this again. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, which is the full moon, on our solemn feast day. Okay. But people are going to say, well, it says blow up the trumpet in the new moon, and you're supposed to blow up the trumpet in the first day of the month. That's not for feast days. Nice try, Mike. Let's read Numbers 10:10.
Also, in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, and in the beginning of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifice of your peace offerings. And they may be to you for a memorial before your God. I am the Lord your God.
So it says we can blow the trumpets in what? The day of your gladness and your what? Solemn days. The same thing it got right here in 81, Psalms 81:3. And the time appointed on our solemn feast days. So we could blow it on our solemn feast days and also in the beginning of your months, which is what? The first day of the month, which is new moon. So they'll blow it on new moon day, the first day of the month, and also on the feast day. But if you looked at this and said, see, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, see, that's the first day of the month. You can't make that and change it to no, you can blow it, you blow it on both. All right. So now let's go to the next. Now let's look at it like this with the understanding. Psalms 81 and verse 3. Read it like this with the understanding in there.
Blow up the trumpet in the new month, in the full moon on our feast of unleavened bread.
Y'all see that? That's how it will look. If you just put everything, how it would blow up the trumpet in the new month and the full moon on our feast of unleavened bread. And that goes right with the context of the rest of the verses, dealing when we left out of that bondage. Okay. Which is what? First month, 15th day. Simplistic. All right. So that's the whole thing with the Psalms 81. People take it there. That's how you break that down. All right. It won't work if you just try to say new moon, new month. No, it won't work. All right. You have to mess up the context of the rest of the scriptures to make it fit. All right. So I'm going to give you an example. So this is an example of the calendar of the new moon. All right. Example of the calendar. All right. This is the example. All right. So forget everything else. We have unleavened bread that said the time we went out, it said it was a full moon, right? So go to the 15th day. Can everybody see my you see my mouse on that 15th day?
Oh.
All right. So the 15th day, according to that scripture, was the full moon. Now we know the new moon is on the what? The first day. So the 15th is the full moon. The 14th will be what of that first month? That would have been Passover, just dealing with the first month of the year. You keep going back, you go back to the first day, you can see a little slither there, right? Because you need a light. And depending, some months fluctuate, some things is off tilter. But with this one, you can see it, there's a small what? Piece of light. Because we need a light. We already established that in Genesis. You have to have a light. The light is the sign, right? So if it ain't the full moon, what other light what are we going with? The slither light. Because this is what? A new light. And if you want to go deep and you want to go to the etymology is the study of words. When you go through that full moon, you'll see the etymology. It also means to renew or repair or new, right? And this will be what? The new light, right? Let's go down after the full moon. You see on this 28th, 29th, you see it's dark. That's what some people celebrate, the dark moon. What happens after it? You see what? A new light. So it goes right to what the context will be of how he breaks it down, okay? So that's just an example month, all right? So let's talk a little bit about the sun and the moon. So this is not a long lesson at all. So Sirach is people that have the apocrypher, you'll be able to, these scriptures are going to come from there, all right? So Sirach 27:11, read that, brother. Get there.
The discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom, but a fool changes as the moon.
Because what? The moon is constantly changing, all right? That light constantly changing. Remember we talked about earlier, it says walking in brightness because it's constantly changing, and what? The light is constantly changing. It's like you're walking in brightness, all right? Read this one, Sirach 15, verse 6. Ecclesiasticus, it's Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, whichever one. I'll put it like this so I don't mess nobody up.
He was as the morning star in the midst of a cloud, and as the moon at the full.
And another emphasis, right? It didn't say the new moon because what? That wouldn't have worked because it's not full at that time. But it said a moon at the full. What's that? A full moon. Okay, so this is another terminology that they use for it as well. Okay. And the morning star is the sun. We should know that from the beginning. All right. Read this one.
The sun, when it appeareth, declaring at his rising a marvelous instrument, the work of the Most High.
All right. So the sun, when it appeareth, declaring at his what? When is it declare? Declare meaning what? I'm here. When it making its appearance, you say you're declaring something. When it is declared? At his rising. What is happening? We see in the light come up, right? It's rising, it's light, and now we say, okay, it's morning. The day is here. Because you see it. That's how it declares itself. It declares itself from the light. The same way God said it'll be a sign. We see that rising, we see that sun rising, and we see the light coming up. That's declaring that it is light, it is day. Okay. The next verse.
At noon parcheth the country, and who can abide the burning heat thereof?
So now it's talking about noonday, right? This is when the sun is starting to come up, you don't get the full blunt of the sun. It creeps up, right? It's rising. But then at noonday, what? It's at its full strength and its glory. At noon, it parts the country. And who can abide the burning heat thereof? All right. So it has a glory. It had its full strength when it's right above us. You know, that you can't hide like that. You know, that's when the shadows, you don't get that much shadows when it's right above you. But it's when it's kind of rising or falling, that's when you get the shadows. So he's giving you just an illustration as well. All right. Read this one.
Great is the Lord that made it, and that his commandments runneth hastily.
Great is the Lord that made it, and we know he made it because we went to Genesis. And at his commandment, when we talk about the ordinances, it runneth hastily. Now listen to the context of this. Because the moon, we have somebody saying what? That it walketh in brightness. The sun is saying it's running hastily. Why is he using walking in one passage and running in another? Both poetic. Because the sun has what? Its light is 12 hours. And what do it just run right across the sky, right? You see the whole thing is sun, it runs right across and it just declares its day. The moon walking because what? Like we showed that it's a month. The moon is representing the month. That calendar is long. It ain't just 12 hours, it's long. So this is some of the stuff that is hidden in the Bible, but it's still showing us a picture. All right. So it runneth hastily. The sun got his job to get across, rise and fall. It got 12 hours to do it. The moon, you know, takes his time growing and going down to nothing. And we'll see a little picture of it later. All right. So here's another big thing in Sirach. We're going to read these next couple verses. And this is basically the end of it. Like I told you, it ain't a long presentation. All right. Go ahead, brother.
He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of time and a sign of the world.
So he made the moon to serve in her seasons for what? Declaration. Remember, we just talked about declaration, another one. Declaration of what? Times and a what? A sign of the world. Okay. Same thing was given in the beginning to be a sign of what? Times of the world. All right. Read the next verse.
From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection.
So it's talking about this moon, and it's a sign of what? Feast. Because no matter what feast you go to, and I showed you, you know, someone from Leviticus, they're on what? They're not all in one month. They're scattered all over the place. You have to know the moon to know which one to do. You know, if we say a feast is in the seventh month, you're going to dictate that from the moon because it's telling you which month it is. Okay. So for the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in what? Her perfection. It didn't say the new moon. It's just telling you about the moon. It's a light that decreaseth in her perfection. When is the moon at a perfect state? When it's full, not lacking, it's full. After it's full, what does it do? It starts to get smaller and smaller again. So it's a light that what? Decreaseth in her perfection. All this is saying, okay? You don't argue that aspect, okay? So it's a light that decreases in her perfection. Now listen to this one.
The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
So the month, now it's talking about the month. The month is called after her name, right? The month is called after her name. You say new moon, also referred to as new month, and we've seen that in Exodus. It was the first, this was the first month of the year to them, the new moon of the year, right? So the month is called after her name. So some people call it new moon, some people might call it new month. But what does it do? What does it, when it's a month, what does it do? Increasing wonderfully in her changing. Hope y'all can see that. This month that's called after the moon, increasingly wonderfully in her changing. So it increases. That means to what? Get bigger. Starts off small, it gets bigger. And then you go right back to verse 7. It gets to a point where it gets perfect. And then what? It starts to decrease. And that's the process of the moon. Because you ever realize God is even showing this, because some people might say, well, I'm only going to count the slither to the full moon, and then the rest I'm not going to count. No, that's all part of it. This sun, this light, it's small, it's new, and then what? It grows into being perfect and full, and then what? It decreases. All right, so it's showing you the whole scenario. Okay, so we're gonna go right to the point. All right, this is the last slide. I told you it's a quick lesson. So let's look at life in general. All right, what do we see? This is a human, funny looking human. All right, so we have a baby, we have a grown person, and then we got them going to the grave. Now think about this. When do we call a human new? We don't call him a new when he's a grown man, right? We don't call him when he's getting old or when he's dead. We say it's a new one, what? A new baby, a newborn, right? This is when it's new. Nobody will argue. Everybody, of course, this is when it's new. You wouldn't think that way with this unless somebody told you. This is when it's new. When is the person mature or in its perfection, as we will say? We will go right here, right? He's at a perfect state, as in he's in his body. He's in a mature state when his body. He has some wisdom. He can go to get smarter. But this is we'll say in our prime. When people think of their prime, they don't talk about when they're kids or when they're getting older. They talk about right in that middle stage, almost like the full moon, right? And then, we all pass away. All right. So think about the human life. Let's get another example. Let's look at this, the tree. When do you say it's new? When it's sprouting out and it's starting to grow its buds and leaves at the first time, it's new. And then what? More leaves start to come, and if it got fruits, it start to grow when it get mature, right? Right in the same age, same thing as like the man, right? And then at a time after its prime, after it get past that season, they say it is ripe for the picking, meaning it's right. It's at the perfect state that it can bear fruit. Then what? It got to die off and then eventually dies, right? The same cycle. And if you look at this is twofold. The same thing with the seasons. People telling you now you got the season starting in January with everything dying. No. God's season start with what? Things are budding, right? Things are starting to grow. And then the season, where'd it go? Spring, summer, fall, winter. That's his life cycle. It's the same sign, same cycle through everything. You go get an animal. An animal has the same thing. They started as cubs, work their way up. All right. So I'm just showing you two examples. Now think about the moon. Falls the same way. When is it new? It's new when it's just starting to button. You see the first light, you see that first little, this is how it starts. And then what? It grows, right? Just like you see the human, it grows. And then what? It comes to a perfect state. Just like the seasons, the plants, the animals, everything got that perfect state. And then what happens? It starts to what? Go down. And what is the moon doing? Going down. And the sun does the same thing. It rises. When we see it rising, what we say? It's the morning. It's the beginning of the day. And then at noon time, it says where everything's parts is what? The sun will be at its glory at the top. And then what? It goes down. And it's what? Ending. Its ending is shift. The same thing with the moon. God has it all the same way. All right. So hopefully y'all can see it with that. I know it's very short. But with that, say shalom. The lion.